Joining me live now is the Assistant Defence Minister, Peter Khalil. Thank you for your time. So with commercial flights restarting, is there a need for repatriation flights or not?
Oh, look, I think, Tom, it's such a fast-moving situation, such a dynamic situation, and the fact is there's 115,000 Australians in the broader region. There's some 24,000 in the Emirates. There may be a need for that, but yes, commercial flights are the best and most effective way as far as volume goes to get people back home as soon as possible.
When they've recommenced, what reason would there be for a repatriation flight?
Well, I mean, if there are...
medical issue?
Yeah, it could be if there's further attacks on some of these Gulf countries that shut down the airports or certain airports, that could be the case. It's just very difficult to predict.
But if you're in there, you want to get out, get on a commercial flight.
I think that's the advice, yep.
The justification for the war from JD Vance. So he said Iran would have retaliated to Israel's strikes. Therefore, we had to act. That doesn't make any sense, does it?
Look, I know there's a lot of debate about this, and we've said as a government that it is for the US and Israel to make the case, the legal case for the strikes on Iran. I know that with respect to international law, obviously Section 51 of the UN Charter, self-defence has to be imminent threat. There's international humanitarian intervention. I mean, you look at a regime like the Islamic Republic, which has killed 36,000 people in a couple of days. It's massacred and slaughtered its own citizens. By the way, this is not the first time. There's been several massacres like this throughout decades. And I was at an event with Iranian Australians on Saturday night. It was very strange because the bombing started happening at the event. It was a Persian Awards event for contributions being made. And
so
people were very anxious.
At that event.
Yeah, it was just very strange. People were very anxious about their family members and so on, but at the same time hopeful that this would mark the beginning of the end of such an evil regime which has killed so many of their family and their friends. So this is complex. I think it's important that we support the Iranian people, particularly the diaspora community in Australia who made such a great contribution.
I guess the problem with that is when you have Donald Trump asked what's the worst case scenario and he sort of muses that he guesses someone just as bad takes over, it feels like another case of the US toppling a regime and walking away.
Well, regime change is quite difficult just through air power. I mean, that's part of, if you look at military history. There are dissident groups and opposition groups on the ground in Iran and just outside Iran. There's the MEK, there's the Kurdish forces in the northwest. There are other groups, the Harvey groups in the eastern part, the western part of Iran. So, and again, there's different political groups that seek to set up a constitutional monarchy or a republic or a secular republic and so on. And so all I can say is this. I've been following this for decades. The Iranian people have been so brave, so courageous. Time and time again, they have stood up for freedom and democracy against a regime that basically has massacred them and slaughtered them in the streets. Ali Larijani, who's now taken over, who's the head of the National Security Council, was responsible for the orders to shoot protesters in one eye, as far as the tens of thousands that were killed in January. They have all been culpable and guilty, not only in killing thousands of their own people, but being a state sponsor of terrorism through proxies like Hezbollah and Hamas, killing thousands of people outside of Iran, and attacks on Australian soil. They've been responsible for two terrorist attacks, attempted attacks here in Australia.
But all the more reason then, from what you outlined, and you know a lot about this area, the current situation and the history of it, simply killing the leader and decimating the military, that's not going to... there's no good path to a new and better regime right now, is there? But
the articulation of some of the justifications and the basis for the military actions, the nuclear capability, which is an existential threat if it was restarted or wasn't completely destroyed in the strikes last year, the ballistic missile program, which allows ballistic missiles to reach continental US or further afield, intercontinental, if you want to call them that, provide a threat. And then there's also the state sponsor of the sponsorship of proxies that are conducting terrorist attacks across the world. They've certainly diminished and degraded all aspects of that capability.
But those people you were with, what hope is that their country will emerge out of this with any semblance of a better regime? There
was hope. And there's always been hope. And
what
these
hope
people,
should they have?
Well, these people have had hope for decades, Tom, and they've gone out into the streets and protested. The women particularly have protested against the regime and have been killed for it and imprisoned for it and tortured for it. And they have been so courageous and you know, we're talking about it now, but to be serious, I mean, honest, the media has barely sort of reported on it, quite remarkably. I'm not sure the reasons for that. That's probably another discussion. They are hopeful. They're hoping for a better Iran, and an Iran that is secular and democratic and free, and the potential, the people, the Iranian Australians that got those awards in medicine and entrepreneurship and cinema and community service on the awards night on Saturday night, think of the 92 million Iranians, what they could make, what kind of contribution they can make to the world.
You know, cultural advanced nation before 1979. But are they justified? Well, not justified, but do they have? Is the hope real? That's the point. Can you see a plan here? Any sort of coherent plan for beyond the strikes?
Well, I think there's a significant shift now. The fact is now that you have removed much of the leadership, that barbarous leadership that has been responsible for the deaths of thousands of people. That in itself is some sort of progress, but there's a lot of water to go under the bridge over the next couple of weeks, and this will be a moving, dynamic moving situation that's very unpredictable. And I think it's important for us to support the Iranian people, support the diaspora here.
Okay.
And you know.
Oh, sorry.
No, I was going to say.
Finish.
No, I was just making the point that it's really important to support the diaspora community here.
Yeah, and look, I fully applaud the hope and I guess for a lot of them perseverance of their cause, and probably a fair enough point that media doesn't cover it more. I suppose sometimes things feel entrenched. Joint Committee on Defence, bit of agitation around the fact that this is coalition Labor. I'm curious, what happens if One Nation becomes the opposition? Would they be allowed on this committee?
So traditionally or conventionally, I should say the Parliamentary Joint Committee on Intelligence and Security, which the new Defence Committee is based upon, very much structured in the same way, has traditionally meant that the Prime Minister of the day, and in consultation with the opposition leader, would look at selecting the 13 members, and they would have a majority of government members and a majority of non-government members. And that's the same model for the Defence Committee.
And what happens if One Nation is the opposition?
Well, that's a hypothetical, Tom. Are they like throwing it as hypothetical? What if Brisbane wins 3 in a row? Like, what if Collingwood beats you again in the grand final?
Every single election, you announce a whole lot of things happen if you win. That's a hypothetical.
What if? No, that's different. That's a commitment to certain policies and to certain...
But you said the convention is the opposition. So is that the convention, or is the convention the coalition and Labor?
The Prime Minister consults with the opposition leader of the day around the selection of members of the
Pauline Hanson
committee.
is the opposition leader of the day.
Well, I don't have a crystal ball to look into past the next election in two years' time.
Okay.
I can tell you.
So is it something that's crossed your mind?
I don't think about it every day. No, I mean, until you've asked me about it, I think the committee. What I have thought about, to be square with you, is that this is a really important committee because the amount of work it can do around defence and defence policy is critical for the Parliament.
Got to leave it there, Peter Khalil. Always appreciate your time.
Thanks, Tom.
Good on you for your optimism around 3 in a row. We'll see what happens.